Well, hello, hello. This Mary's Ponder of the Day is about holding on in silence after a mountaintop experience. Have you ever had a mountaintop experience? For some people, it can be an accomplishment, it can be a religious type thing, spiritual experience, whatever. I'm not even going to try to categorize it. Some may know, some may not know that a week ago, is that right? No, it was on the 8th, on voting day. I was coming out of the voting location and I tripped on the curb and fell and broke my nose and bruised a rib, scraped my hand all up. And the bad thing about that was Tuesday the 8th, was the next day I had a flight to Utah to go canyoneering. And kind of against what everyone was thinking, and honestly beyond my own better senses, I decided to go. And to say that trip was impactful, really big understatement. But my ponder today is that it was the day after the canyoneering trip, and then I went with this person. It's my nephew, actually, who is a guide. He is many things. He is a helicopter pilot, float plane pilot, adventure guide, country music star. I mean, he's just a polymath and a wonderful person whom I always enjoy being around for the conversations the quality and the kind of conversations that happen. Anyways, the next day, and I'm still trying to process everything that has happened the day before from an internal perspective. What I had accomplished physically in the particularly in the face of the injuries that I had sustained, and more so about overcoming fear and my own beliefs about my limitations, many of which turned out to be absolute bullshit, not true, which was mind-bending. But that's all for another story. But this next day, we drove way outside of town to this beautiful place. And we're standing at the top of this mesa. And not only can I not get close to the edge because I keep getting vertigo, but every time he gets close to the edge, I also get vertigo. Just watching him walk so close to the edge of over a 300-foot drop of sheer cliff I couldn't handle it. So I'm sitting there trying to overcome it, and he and I are talking about it. He's like, come closer to the edge. And I was like, I can't. And which is interesting because I had realized, and we discussed this, is that when I was going down in the canyon walls, while it was a straight shot down, provided some perceptual sense of closeness, comfort somehow even, whereas this was just wide open. And he said, yeah, I experienced that in the beginning as well. Many people do. And then he said this incredibly profound thing. He said, you know, in our daily lives, we have so many bumper rails. But out here, it's just you. There's no ropes. There's no guardrails. Help is, you know, he said, if I can't help, you know, if something were to happen to both of us, then help is however long it takes for somebody to figure out we're missing. You know, on and on and on and on. It's like being so completely responsible for yourself. And that was juxtaposed by what happened when I fell on Tuesday, where all these people just rushed to me within less than seconds. I mean, they were just right on it. And then the ambulance came, and then, you know, there was all this help, and then the doctor and the nurses, and the on and on and on and on, and then everybody checking up on me. And then that memory was so fresh. And then here we are standing out on this giant rock with a solid drop to the river below. And it's just you. You are completely in charge of you. If something goes wrong, I'm sure eventually someone's coming, but nobody's coming right away. And there was just this disorienting feeling about that. And it's part of the reason I like to travel, period. Whether you're, you know, anytime you're stepping out of any kind of comfort zone, you are having to depend on your own wits, your ability to ask questions, your ability to figure things out. You know, even though you may still, like in an airport, you're still surrounded by that same kind of bumper rails, traveling outside of your comfort zone requires you to be a little more involved. And the day before, I had discovered just how competent I was in ways that I don't normally look at or realize. And not in a, you know, oh, I'm this business person, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm the other. It was more visceral and more primal than that. It's like, you know, I may be old, but my body is strong. I'm strong for an old lady. And I have spent so much time and effort, and in my studies, and in my spiritual walk, and in my practices that make it easier for me to overcome fear and the voices of, just the voices, you know, I don't mean like schizophrenic voices. I mean like the voices that go, you can't do this, you're not strong enough, you're not this, you're not that, you're not the other. This is too hard. And, you know, I can just mentally brush that away and hyper focus on exactly what I'm doing, and that need to listen to what my guide, literal Sam, my guide, was telling me to do. This is how we do this. This is how we do this safely. And I was just, you know, everything else had to go. And then here was this next day where I had all this new knowledge about myself. And then he makes this statement as our world is full of bumper rails. And I sat with that for a little while, and I said, it makes you wonder why we're so damn scared. Why do we go through life so afraid to try things? And, you know, and often it's social ridicule, or people thinking you're irresponsible, or you're this, or you're that, or I don't know. People make judgments about you all the time. But, you know, my mom had this great saying, what other people think of you is none of your business. What we need to worry about is what we think of ourselves. What goals do we have for ourselves? What things do we want to accomplish before we leave this earth? I mean, what is important to us? And then why don't we just do it? And we might fail. Failure is evidence that you tried. If you just sit in your little safe cocoon, never trying anything, then perhaps, I don't know, maybe you're perfectly happy, but my question would be, are you living a life of quiet desperation? I don't know. That would be it for me. There's something about the trying and doing that is really just kind of life-giving for me. It wasn't even the accomplishment of the thing. It was being in the moment, trying hard things and working through that. And then that moment the next day where I'm just standing here going, literally, my body is having a physiological response to the thought of either Sam or myself being too close to that edge. I was nowhere near the edge. He was near the edge, and that was causing me to have a physiological, shortness of breath, elevated heart rate, worry, all of these things. And I thought, he's as at home on this mountain as I am in a closing room, this is no big deal to him. I mean, it is a big deal, but he takes it very seriously. I don't mean it like that. I mean, his comfort level was down here on the chill AF, whereas mine was freaking the heck out, nowhere near the edge. But in that moment, I resolved that I will overcome that feeling. I don't know how many times I will have to stand on top of that rock. I may have to belly crawl closer to the edge and look over, but I will overcome it. It's become a thing now. It's like, okay, that's ridiculous that my mind has hijacked my body. And just like I have overcome all the other things that I thought I couldn't do, I'm going to whip that. Because in life, if you want to do big things, and I don't mean like big things by other people's standards, whatever those big things are for yourself, whatever your big goals are, your big to-dos, your big I want to do this is going to require you to overcome mental obstacles. Your biggest obstacle and detriment is yourself. Up here, thoughts. Your thoughts are what's giving you hell. That's what's giving you a problem. And I'm just telling you that all I had to do was think about either one of us getting close to that edge, and I was having a physical response. And that's a big deal. So remember, in everyday life, if you live anywhere semi-close to town or in the city or wherever or you have a big network or you work at a job, you just have this huge safety net, really so close to you, so buffered, so safe in so many ways. So I would encourage people to get outside your comfort zone, whatever that looks like. Whatever, kind of maybe makes your blood pressure or your heart rate go up or whatever, is to think is like, I'm scared to do that. Well, then absolutely go do it. Whether that's ballroom dancing and the thought of being embarrassed in front of people, or I don't even know, eating a meal in a restaurant by yourself, all those things are nothing to me. But whatever it is, I highly recommend doing it. And then in the doing of it, you will recognize that it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought. And then you build that confidence over time, and you learn to control your mind and your fear to get closer to whatever your way bigger goals are. And that if someone were to ask me, what is it about going and doing these things that is so attractive to you that you spend all this time and money and effort going to places to do hard things, or even going places to do fun things, but that the getting there is such a hassle, or there's great expense, or you have to work so you can afford to go, or there's all this, plane changing, or learning a foreign language, or whatever is necessary for whatever the thing is that you've set out to do, or business, or a degree. It could be anything, literally anything. And the reason is because I have epiphanies, paradigm shifts. So in this particular instance, sometimes I just have an epiphany. Epiphany is like a aha. A paradigm shift is where you learn something that literally shifts your worldview. And that is what happened to me on this trip. But I didn't want to talk about it until I had had a week to kind of sort through all that. It was so big. So when you have a mountaintop, hold it in for just a period of time. You'll know when it's okay to talk about it. I mean, because when you talk about it right away, people have opinions about everything. And sometimes they can go down a trail, a thought trail, and you're like, no, not like that. And you get really annoyed, and then you wish you hadn't shared it with them. And whereas if you just sit with it for a while until you get all you needed out of that fresh before sharing it, I highly recommend that, because I have done both. I've immediately gone, hey, this cool, wonderful thing. And if they don't get it, or they laugh at it, or they poo-poo it, or, they go down some thought trail where it's like, no, not like that. It somehow is diminished. That's what I'm trying to say. Somehow in the too early telling of it, it becomes diminished. Whereas if you just hold on to it and savor it and get quiet and sort through all those feelings before talking about it, somehow all the good stuff gets cemented in. So there's that. Anyway, that was Mary's ponder of the day. Hold it in for a minute. Love you, mean it.